of 2016. Yeah, that was a pretty awful day, and it was also my birthday, so it hit me pretty hard. But what was really crazy is I was able to take 2.5 months off from my job to travel the state and help be the director of Women's Outreach in Wisconsin. And I remember reflecting on November 9th about my experience traveling almost 3,000 miles. And people were like, well, Sarah, what did you see when you were in the field, whether it was in northern Wisconsin or western Wisconsin? And I was like, people were really just sad. I'm like, I would talk to people and they were sad because their kids were moving away and they weren't coming back. They were sad because their local banks were actually closing. A lot of community banks are closing and they couldn't get access to capital to expand their small business. Or they were sad because the company that they had been working for over 30 years has shut down and moved somewhere else and was not coming back. And if you think about it, the stats actually tell us that. They're like, we are in the lowest 50% when it comes to business development. We are 50th for startups. We are 47th for entrepreneurship, and we are 48th for innovation. I mean, you can think about it, there's maybe some reason why some Wisconsinites did buy into this Make America Great Again. Yeah. So I remember talking to my husband, and I really want to do something economic. I don't know what it is, I really want to kind of think about it. So this, almost a year ago, I was reading in the paper that Scott Walker was putting this amendment on the ballot to remove the state treasurer. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had my investor and my consultant hat on. I go, that's like somebody saying, you know what, Sarah, we're gonna fire our chief financial officer, we're gonna fire our auditor, and then we're gonna give that responsibility to our CEO. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We would never do that in business, so why do you think that's good government? And then, I always have to ask this, do you know how many states do not have a state treasurer or a financial equivalent?
None.
0! We would have been the first state in the union to remove our financial officer. So I went to the legislature and I started asking people, I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do to stop this? And they're like, Sarah, we have so many battles that we're fighting right now, this just really isn't a priority. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, we just can't do this. So I then called the National Association of State Treasurers. And I said, hey, I'm just trying to get more information about this referendum and how it happened and what do you guys know? And they're like, wait, are you from Wisconsin? Oh. And I go, yeah, I am. And I talked about my background and they go, do you want to come to our National Treasurers meeting? It's in California and spend a week with us because the Wisconsin Treasurer's not coming. Oh my God. And I was like, I would love to be there. So I spent almost a week, 5 days with 49 other, their treasurers, comptrollers, chief financial officers, they have different names in different states, and just learning how incredible this position is and how many treasurers across the country are actually using this role for economic empowerment. And so I came back and I'm like, I'm just not gonna sit on the sidelines and watch this disappear without a fight. So I helped found the Save Our Fiscal Watchdog Ballot Committee. And it was a group from across the state. We formed partnerships with over 30 organizations to really educate people on the state treasurer and why it's important. And I'm happy to announce that we won by not just a little, by almost 62% of the vote. Awesome. But in traveling the state and talking about this office, one thing came very clear to me, that this office has been neglected for over a decade by both parties. I'm like, and I just don't want to see that. So that's why I'm running, is because this office I know can serve all Wisconsinites. So you're probably thinking, all right, Sarah, that's great, so what can you do? I heard its position or powers are strict. It has no authority, I heard it can't do anything. So here's 3 things that it can actually start doing on day 1. That it doesn't need governor approval or it doesn't need legislative approval. The first is to be your fiscal watchdog. This office has the ability to review and examine financial transactions that involve your tax dollars. I don't know about you, but did you hear this company called Foxconn that we might want some checks on? Or maybe these deals with WEDC that we're just giving away corporate handouts? And the other thing, just from my business perspective and serving on nonprofit boards, all these treasurers are like, so Sarah, how's your taxpayer annual report? I'm like, annual report? They're like, yeah, don't you have a taxpayer annual report that tells people what their money went to, what we spent? I'm like, nope, sure don't. Businesses have to do annual reports. Nonprofits have to do annual reports. We should have to do the same thing. I mean, the legislature and the governor tell you how to spend your money, they spend it, but who's actually saying they spent it the way that they told us?
Yeah,
There's no check right
absolutely.
now. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to invest in Wisconsin's future. So this office is the financial trustee to $1.2 billion. Do you know what that money goes to? Exactly. Exactly.
Public land.
Close, it's part of it, but what that $1.2 billion goes to is public education. Last year alone, it provided $35 million to all schools in Wisconsin. And do you know what it was specifically earmarked for? Two things, books and technology. And I don't know about you, I think that's pretty darn important. So regardless what property taxes are, that money goes to all schools. So I really started looking at how this fund was invested. This fund has independent investment authority. And in looking at that independent investment authority, there's one thing that actually, one of many things that we can do. We can actually use its low interest portfolio to refinance student loan debt. How many of you guys know people that have student loan debt? Anybody here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. I graduated with over $75,000 in student loan debt and was paying an interest of 9%.
Oh,
How can young Wisconsinites get ahead if you can't even keep up?
yeah.
And so this is one way in which we can creatively leverage this fund and truly invest in Wisconsin's future. And then the third thing that this office can do is to be your fiscal advocate. So one of the things it says in the Constitution is this is the chief banker of the state, and they should be advocating for you. So do you guys remember that Wells Fargo scandal that happened, where they're kicking people off the loans or raising your interest? So treasurers around the country got together and they said, you can't do that to my people. They fined them, they pulled contracts where they were involved, they removed their investment, they made them pay money back. Do you know what happened when thousands of Wisconsinites were screwed by Wells Fargo?
No.
Nothing, nothing. They didn't do anything. Or the second thing is the number 2 reason why the aging agency in the state of Wisconsin is called is for financial exploitation of our seniors. We don't have a statewide program right now to actually protect or navigate that. Or another big thing that they're doing with financial empowerment is addressing the wage gap. So do you know how big our wage gap is here annually in the state of Wisconsin? $14 billion. And if you think about it, we're one of the worst in the state, or worst in the country. And there's states like Massachusetts whose state treasurer has been actually working with businesses to educate them on the positive impact that this can happen, and helping women negotiate salaries, and they've literally helped to decrease the wage gap. When we actually did have equal pay in Wisconsin. We had legislation that was passed in 2009, and in 2012, Scott Walker removed it. He repealed it. And I will tell you, the study shows that within those 24 months, equal pay improved by 3%, just within 24 months. So these are things that we can start doing on day one. So that's why I'm running, is because I really believe that this office can help all Wisconsinites.